West Allis, Wisconsin, the famous Milwaukee Mile for the American 200 for Indy cars. It's a beautiful day here, hardly a cloud in the sky, and the temperature is 77 very pleasant degrees. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Larry Newber. Well, the Indy cars were in Indianapolis last month searching for speeds over 200 miles an hour. They came here searching for speed this weekend, not quite that fast, and they found it. 10 drivers broke the previous track record.
Not only 10 drivers, Bob, over the old track record, but 6 of them above 150 miles an hour. I guess the constructors and the design engineers have outfoxed the rules makers again. Every year we try to put a lid on the speeds, and every year the speeds seem to go up. And here at Milwaukee, 50 years of history at a flat-paved 1-mile track above 150 miles an hour.
The fastest of all, Michael Andretti at near 153 miles an hour. With more on that, let's call in the third member of our broadcast crew for the day in the pit area. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, Bob, Michael displaced his father, Mario, as the track record holder with his pole-winning performance here for the American 200. He's on the inside. They say he's from the new breed. But when you look on the outside of this starting grid, there's Johnny Rutherford, one of the fellows that's a veteran of open cockpit competition, especially here at Milwaukee. And one thing that he says, when you're a veteran, he says beguiling cunning will always win out over youthful exuberance. We'll have to wait and see. Gentlemen?
All right, and you look at the second row, and you find some drivers who have something to prove here this weekend. The 33rd and 32nd place finishers in last weekend's Indianapolis 500.
Well, that second row, not only the people who are in the first row this week here at Milwaukee, but the second row comprised of Tom Sneva and Mario Andretti join Johnny Rutherford and Michael Andretti as people who come to Milwaukee with not necessarily something to prove, but something to redeem themselves for. In their own way, each one of them was unhappy with the results of Indianapolis last week. And each of them comes to Milwaukee, qualifies extremely well, has a good week, and all 4 of them look to be a favorite in today's race.
All right, Larry, well, there used to be 2 races here in Milwaukee, now only one, a 200-miler, and it's being brought to you by today's Chevrolet, who invite you to live the style, performance, and fun of Chevrolet in '86. By Pennzoil Motor Oil, quality protection, ask for it. And by Goodyear, you either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. 24 cars are set to go in the American 200 here at the Milwaukee Mile, and we'll be back to start the race and take a look at the starting lineup right after this. Behind the pace cars, and the command is given to start engines, and a great roar grows up from the starting line here on the main straightaway. There is Michael Andretti, the pole sitter for today's race, qualifying at 152.905 miles an hour. He gets set to compete in this 200-miler. There you can see Michael as the pole sitter in the Graco STP lean machine, qualifying at 152.905, the pole sitter for today's race. Outside of row number 1, the veteran Johnny Rutherford, car number 21, the Vermont American March. In row number 2, Tom Sneva in the Skoll Bandit March, car number 33. And on the outside of row number 2 will be Mario Andretti from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, car number 5, the Newman Haas Lola. In row number 3, Rick Mears in number 1, the Pennzoil Z7 March. Outside of the third row will be Roberto Guerrero in the number 2, True Value Emerson March. The fourth row consists of the winner of the Indianapolis 500, Bobby Rahal, the number 3 Budweiser True Sports March. Outside of the fourth row, second place finisher at Indianapolis, Kevin Cogan, the number 7 711 March. In the fifth row, veteran A.J. Foyt from Houston, Texas, in the number 14 Gilmore Copenhagen March. And outside of row number 5 will be the number 30 Domino's Pizza Lola, Al Unser Jr. from Albuquerque, New Mexico. In the sixth row will be Emerson Fittipaldi in car number 20 and Gary Bettenhausen in number 24. The seventh row, Roberto Moreno in car number 9. Outside the seventh row, his teammate Jeff Brabham, car number 8. In the eighth row will be Raul Boisel in car number 22. Outside of the eighth row, Ed Pym, car 66. The ninth row will be Jose Legarza in 55 and Danny Sullivan in number 4. The 10th row, Johnny Parsons in 59 and Randy Lanier in number 12. The 11th row, Jacques Villeneuve in 71 and Ari Lyondike in 61. And the 12th row, Promoters Options, number 16, Rick Muskiewicz, and number 56, Steve Chassie. Those are the starters for today's American 200, and this is our in-car camera. It's in the car of Ari Lyondike and feeding us at this point some fantastic pictures.
Ari starts this race on the outside of row 11, as you just saw, 22nd position. He lives not too far away from here. This basically is his home racetrack. He expects to be giving you some very exciting and dramatic pictures as he starts this race from the back of the field. Obviously, that's not the way anybody planned it, certainly not where Ari wanted to start. But you are going to perhaps get a fantastic shot and angle at the start of this race.
Well, he's in the next to the last row, starting in 22nd position. And as he moves up through the field, it should provide some excellent shots for us. They move out of turn number 2 now and down the backstretch on this second warm-up lap. We should be getting the green flag momentarily. There is the row consisting of Kevin Kogan and Bobby Rahal, first and second at Indianapolis.
I guess we don't have to tell you that if anybody has gotten most of the IndyCar headlines in the last 10 days, it is that two. That's how they qualified. 4th and 5th, Rahal just a tick of the watch ahead of Kevin Kogan, just the way they finished at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Bobby Rahal qualifying here this weekend at 148.234 miles an hour, about 4.5 miles an hour off the pole setting speed. And there is Kevin Kogan from Redondo Beach, California, who qualified at 147.9 miles an hour.
Nobody was terribly disappointed with their qualifying speed. You say, well, Rahal are starting 7th and 8th along with Kogan. Gee, they must be disappointed after finishing 1-2 last week. Well, it's hard to be disappointed when you finish in the top 2 positions at Indianapolis. But everybody was so competitive in qualifying. The speeds were so high. And I got to tell you that the qualifying session here yesterday was one of the most entertaining and enjoyable qualifying sessions I have seen in quite some time. There was a lot of drama, a lot of speed, and it was a safe day and thoroughly enjoyable.
Back in the 5th row, we had a shot there a few seconds ago of veteran A.J. Foyt and relative newcomer Al Unser Jr. This should be a tremendous race here. 200 laps, 200 miles of racing on the famous Milwaukee Mile in West Dallas. The pace car is off the track. Here comes the field. Let out of turn number 4 by Michael Andretti. He steps on the gas. The green flag is displayed. We're racing. Tom Sneva shooting from his 3rd starting position into the lead. A tremendous start for Tom Sneva. Off the 2nd corner, Tom has the lead. Michael Andretti is 2nd. Then Johnny Rutherford is running in 3rd position. Here they come off of corner number 4, completing lap number 1. Tom Sneva has the lead.
A spin in turn 4. It looks like Rick Miskiewicz near the back of the pack. No contact with wall. The yellow flag was sure to come out. Also got a blown engine in turn number 1. It's Emerson Fittipaldi.
Fittipaldi is dropping off the racetrack, making sure that no liquid from that race car is dropping any moisture on the track. And there is Rick Miskiewicz, who has spun in turn number 4 on the very first lap. The car is not under power, so it's going to have to be taken from the racetrack. There's a good look at Rick, the Can-Am champion for 1985, trying to make his mark in IndyCar racing. Was one of the promoters' options in this race, starting in 23rd position.
The only man who had a 1-year-old car to get in this race. This is a 1985 March, although it's been modified and updated. Andy Kenopensky, as a matter of fact, was the one who helped redesign that car.
This is a shot from our in-car camera of Emerson Fittipaldi's engine letting go. You can see Emerson dropping to the inside of the racetrack and smoke and vapor pouring from the rear of that machine.
Once again, looking from Arie Luyendijk's car, there is the remains of Emerson Fittipaldi's car picking up some debris as he dropped off the racetrack and went into the foliage on the inside here.
Lots of action in the first lap of this 200-miler at Milwaukee. Emerson Fittipaldi's engine lets go, and Rick Miskiewicz spins in turn number 4. Tom Sneva is the leader. We'll be back with more right after this. Back in Milwaukee, where the yellow remains out in the American 200 for a spin up in turn number 4 by Rick Miskiewicz and the blown engine on Emerson Fittipaldi's car. There's Fittipaldi's machine being pushed back from the racetrack into the garage area, and it's an early out, a big disappointment for Emerson Fittipaldi.
Bob, one quick observation. There was an inordinate amount of wiggling and squirming at the drop of the green flag as the cars came around turn number 4. Those of you at home got a good view of it, and several people in the first 3 or 4 rows shook.
Bobby Rahal won this year's Indianapolis 500. It's quite a distinction. We asked him about how it's changed him.
Now I know how much everybody changes once they win the Indianapolis 500. Tell me how Bobby Rahal is different.
More tired. I don't know. obviously one's banker becomes friendlier, but other than that, we've got a lot of business associations that we're considering, and I think for me personally, though, it almost feels like all the pressure's off. It doesn't matter what happens from now on out.
Bobby Rahal from Dublin, Ohio, the driver of car number 3, the Budweiser True Sports March, owned by Jim Truman.
Bob, it's almost to the point after you win the Indianapolis 500 of it's difficult to get back to your business, which is driving race cars. Bobby spent the week jetting back and forth between here and the East Coast with all the national television appearances. So many people clamoring for his attention, and you really have to take a deep breath, which he did successfully. Come back to Milwaukee and go back to the office.
Right now, Bobby Rahal runs in 4th position, and here comes the field off of the 4th corner for a restart, and the green comes out once again. Michael Andretti pulls to the inside and tries to challenge Tom Sneva going into turn number 1, but Sneva is going to hold him off. The battle for 3rd place now is between Johnny Rutherford and Mario Andretti. Boy, that was
Johnny Rutherford, yeah, making great from the outside of Mario. Now Mario is trying to get him back as they go down the backstretch. What happens quick here? 23.5 seconds on a 1-mile racetrack.
What a tremendous start Tom Sneva had when the green flag dropped. He shot from his 3rd starting position into the lead. There once again is our shot from Ari Leyendijk's car as he negotiates the main straightaway, settling down into turn number 1. Tremendous shots here. You can see the speed that these cars are going on this 1-mile racetrack.
You get an idea that you drift up high coming out of the corners, get a little bit off the wall. Turbulence doesn't take you out. Depending upon how the car is handling determines just how close or how far away you have to stay. There's a spin right in front of Leyendijk, and Leyendijk maneuvers down to the inside and successfully gets by. Right in front of our camera car, you saw it live. Ari Leyendijk taking evasive action to get around the spinning Randy Lanier.
Unbelievable pictures. Randy Lanier spins right in front of Ari Leyendijk. There is Lanier's stalled car in turn number 4. So the action continues here in this American 200. 2 cars have spun in turn number 4. Here it is once again.
The secret here, you don't panic. Leyendijk sees that Lanier is losing it. Now, which way do I go? Normally, I steer where the car is. That means he's low, I go low. Ari makes one little tweak to the inside. Randy spins harmlessly up to the high side of the racetrack, and Ari Leyendijk gets through in picture book form.
I think it was Tony Bettenhausen, Gary's father, that once said, when there's a car spinning in front of you, you drive right for it because the time you get there, the car will be gone, and that's exactly what Ari did.
It sure is, and the big thing here, I won't repeat myself because it's so important, you don't panic. How many times on the highway has a truck pulled out in front of you, or you see somebody coming at a side road that's approaching you, and the first thing that happens, you start to breathe heavy and your knees get weak.
We'll have to get Randy Lanier's car off the racetrack before we go green again. When we do, we'll be back to cover it for you at Milwaukee. We are back at the Milwaukee Mile in West Allis, where the green flag has not yet come out. We are still under caution because of the spin involving Randy Lanier. Well, there was a lot of second guessing as to what you would have done at the final laps of the Indianapolis 500.
Everybody likes to do Monday morning quarterbacking. I'm talking now about the finish at Indianapolis. Your thoughts on it? Let's say that you were in Kevin Cogan's shoes. How would you have handled that situation differently?
Well, you know, I wasn't in his car and I wasn't in his position, but I know what I'd have been doing. I'd have been accelerating down the back straightaway where, if I could have, you know, of course, he might have had a circumstances where his car did not want to accelerate or things like that, or he could have had gearbox problems. I've been that way too, be leading a race, yellow come out, and maybe not have the gearbox where to shift proper or something like that, so that can handicap you, but I know he was doing everything probably possible, but then, you know, you never know, and I guess he's had second thoughts what he would do again.
Well, it's like I said, it's really tough to say, obviously. I'm sure that he has the solution now, and I watched it, and I think everyone felt this disappointment, but then you get in Rahal's shoes, and Rahal had a second chance there, and you know, Cogan knows what he needed to do.
If I were coaching Kevin, I would have said, son, you've got to be flat on it over in turn 3 if you're going to play the game.
And those guys have the experience to speak. 75 years of racing among among those three in 138 IndyCar wins. Tom Sneva leads the American 200. Michael Andretti is staying right with him, though. You know, Larry, we talked about in the opening of the show drivers that have something to prove here this weekend, and I think perhaps the driver topping that list is Tom Sneva after that unbelievably disappointing start that he had, the car crashing in the pace laps.
There's no question about it, Bob, and this is the perfect racetrack for Sneva to do it. He has won like 4 of the last 6 races. There is Rick Mears. Now, he pitted twice during the long yellow flag for Randy Lanier's spin. He has changed the stagger, meaning he has changed the tires. Now watch for him moving around R.A. Lyondike. Here's our camera car. Watch for the yellow blower probably moving on the inside as they go into turn number 3. That'll be Rick Mears if the setup is there. Well, not quite yet. There he is. There is Rick Mears getting below the yellow line. Apparently the stagger is a little more to his liking as he moves underneath Lyondike.
They checked the right rear on that car to make sure that the stagger was right, and Rick appears to be moving much better now. To the pit area, Jack Arute and Emerson Fittipaldi.
And he's a disappointed Emerson Fittipaldi. Only 1 lap again, Emo, kind of like Indianapolis.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed. You know, just on the start, I feel some hesitation on the engine. It looks like it was misfiring, and lap 1 just blew a big way.
This seems to be a strange turn of events for your team. Things were going well last year, and now you just can't get it together.
Yeah, you know, it looks like we did well the first 2 races, and Indianapolis, I had the control boost pressure line broke. But I hope things will turn. The many races to go through this year, and I hope it'll lucky turn our way.
Well, it's tout fini for him, but he says he's going to go back and try and see what's going on with the World Cup. Brazil, his own country's playing in that in soccer.
There will be better days ahead for Emerson Fittipaldi. Tom Sneva leads Michael Andretti here in this American 200 at Milwaukee. Sneva and Andretti have pulled away from the 3rd place car, which is Mario Andretti. Running 4th is Johnny Rutherford. In 5th position is Kevin Kogan. 6th is Roberto Guerrero. 7th is Al Unser Jr. And there are Johnny Rutherford and Roberto Guerrero.
That's the contest for 5th, Bob, and they've been side by side, off and on for the last 2 or 3 laps. About a lap ago, Guerrero was underneath Johnny Rutherford. Johnny was on the high side right there in the racetrack. They went into turns 3 and 4, and Johnny just kept his leg in it and powered by on the high side.
And we have a change of 3rd position as Kevin Kogan has gone around Mario Andretti. So Kevin Kogan moves into 3rd, Andretti down to 4th, and then this 5th and 6th place battle between Johnny Rutherford and Roberto Guerrero. There's Guerrero in car number 2 down the back stretch and into corner number 3.
Because of the 2 early caution flags, it was a little early to try and set up the rhythm of the race to find out who was going good, who was not. Kevin Kogan was one of those people who held back. He just stepped back during all that confusion, and now he's beginning to turn the wick up. There's Mario Andretti putting a lap on Jacques Villeneuve, going underneath him, coming out of turn number 2, down the backstretch. Mario moves underneath Jacques and now approaches, I believe it was Johnny Parsons Jr., who was directly in front of him.
But Mario's car does not appear to be working very well. He has dropped back a position, and now Johnny Rutherford and Roberto Guerrero are definitely catching up with him. It was a disappointment for Mario at the Indianapolis 500 as he finished in 32nd position, completing only a few laps, and it doesn't appear as if that car is running quite like he would like it to here this weekend.
Well, running right behind Little Al, who you mentioned, Bob, a couple moments ago, there's Johnny Rutherford again, cementing himself in 5th spot, is the number 3 car of Bobby Rahal, and in 9th is Gary Bettenhausen, and 10th is Ed Tim. So some new faces up in the top 10 were early in the race, so it's not because of attrition. That's how competitive IndyCar racing has become. This man here represents a very good indication of how competitive it's become. Tom Sneva, a lot of people haven't been talking about him this year, but he's led points already this season. The one we were just looking at, Johnny Rutherford, here he is qualifying 2nd fastest for the first time in a long time.
No question that this is Tom Sneva's type of racetrack. He loves the ovals. He loves the short ovals, and his record here at Milwaukee is very impressive. Gary Bettenhausen, you mentioned, Larry, is also running a very steady race. He's in 9th position right now in this number 24 car, prepared by A.J. Watson, sponsored by the Leader Card Company. Gary Bettenhausen started in 12th position, is now running in 9th. Gary Bettenhausen, also a veteran of this type of racing here at Milwaukee. Many, many years ago, he was involved in a serious accident down the backstretch. But Gary has survived all of these accidents and years of tremendous competition. Once again, from our in-car camera, we see Ari Lyondike racing with traffic down the main straightaway.
That's Danny Sullivan due north right ahead. Sullivan goes to the low side to go underneath Randy Lanier. You see the Acciaro sign in the back of the wing. On the high side, there comes the leader, Tom Sneva. You have to make a guess when you're a guy like Ari Lyondike. Now here comes on the inside, Michael Andretti. Sneva gets by high, Michael gets by low. There are still more leaders to come. Ari has to be watching in front of him. He has to be checking the mirrors on both sides. You saw his line coming out of turn number 2. He had to stay right in the middle of the racetrack because he didn't know from which direction the next leader was coming.
So he followed Michael Andretti to the low side to get around Randy Lanier. Now we watch the battle from his car. Now we take the high camera and show you the interval between first and second has definitely closed in as Michael Andretti now comes right up on the rear wing of Tom Sneva. Makes it about a 3-car length advantage. Here comes Sneva off the fourth corner once again, and Andretti is hanging right in there with him.
Now, in case you're wondering, everybody's planning on 2 pit stops. Remember, the load is 75 or 80 miles, depending upon your miles per gallon, much closer to 72 probably. 200 miles race, 2 pit stops. So once you get up to about lap 40, at that point, you can stop at any time after that and still stay in synchronization with the rest of the race. It doesn't make too much difference at what particular laps you stop, as long as you get past that first wind of about 35 or 40 laps.
Tom Sneva moving to the inside once again of Jacques Villeneuve in corner number 1 and putting a lap on him. Michael Andretti does likewise. Now he passes Rick Miskiewicz as he goes down the backstretch. Tom Sneva, formerly from Spokane, Washington, now making his home in Paradise Valley, Arizona. And there is Michael Andretti, who lives in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, of course, with his father. When we have a car stalled in the middle of the 4th turn, let's see if everybody makes it around. Ooh, some close action there. The car that is stalled in the middle of turn number 4, we believe, is one of the Gallus
Roberto
cars.
Moreno, you see the yellow helmet, and that was Jacques Villeneuve, who had no place to go on the binders and almost slid into Roberto, but stopping right in the middle of the groove coming out of turn number 4.
Roberto Moreno apparently spun down there. The car came to a rest right in the middle of the racetrack. Everybody had to take evasive action to miss him, but everybody did. Now the field is slowed as the pace car comes out for the 3rd time in 29 laps.
Oh, this will be interesting because we might be just a little bit outside of that window that'll allow you to go the distance on one more pit stop. It's a little early, lap 30. Unless everybody is really confident on their fuel mileage, they might choose to not come in at this point. Here comes Michael Andretti. He is the first of the leaders to pit. You see that Sneva stays out on the racetrack. Kevin Kogan coming in. Mario Andretti. Everybody's figuring, well, this may not be the last yellow flag. I will have an ample opportunity to stay on the lead lap with the leader, but Sneva remains out.
Sneva remains out, so does Johnny Rutherford, so does Rick Mears, who has been in a couple of times for an adjustment on the stagger in the right rear. There is Mario Andretti, who's getting his tanks topped off. Here is Michael Andretti blasting out of the pit area, laying down some rubber as he stood on the accelerator to get out of the pit area. Michael Andretti, who was running in 2nd position prior to this yellow, caused by Roberto Moreno's spin down in turn number 4. Back with more of our live coverage from West Allis, Wisconsin, the Milwaukee Mile. Back at Milwaukee, where the green flag is about to come back out, and Tom Sneva will continue to be the leader, but we do not have a start. The yellow remains out. The drivers were anticipating a start, and some evasive action there taken by one of the cars. I believe Jose Legarza had to go to the inside to avoid hitting the car in front of him. Everybody was expecting.
Well, I think what happened there, Bob, is that Rick Miskiewicz, who is running right behind Tom Sneva, is just not prepared to jump on it real quickly. You know, he's inexperienced on this type of racetrack. He's already spun once today, and Tom obviously wants to get as rapid a start as he possibly can. So Rick was holding back. I'm sure that the official driver was thinking, geez, Sneva is jumping, but I'm not sure that that's exactly what happened. Watch for Sneva to rocket chip away again.
Larry, one of the things that you assumed would happen is maybe Sneva would stay out, gamble for more caution. That's exactly what he's done. I talked to John Anderson, his crew chief, and he said, we thought about bringing him in, and we said, wait a minute, we can go a little further before we've got to go for fuel. We're going to leave him out and take a late stop.
Again, we do not have a green. There is debris on the course this time. Sneva picking up the throttle once again and coming down off the 4th corner, but Nick Fodoro Jr., Nick Fenora Jr.'s father.
Yes, there you go. You got it.
Who is
First Nicky Fenora.
Yes, who was the official flagman, displays the yellow, and we stay under caution as the safety trucks are out there on the racetrack looking for the debris.
Just a couple of very quick notes. Jacques Villeneuve is having handling problems. Al Unser Jr. cannot talk to his pit crew. The radio is out. Bob?
Well, there is the result. Boston 114 and Houston 95. The Celtics win the series 4-2, and we welcome you. If you are just joining us from having watched that basketball game, we have got a tremendous race underway here, and we're getting some tremendous shots from the in-car camera that Ari Leyendijk is carrying. We have had 3 yellow periods caused by spins. Rick Muskiewicz spun in turn number 4. So did Randy Lanier. So did Roberto Moreno. We have had no wall contact at this point. And Tom Sneva has led every lap so far. He started this race in 3rd position, but then jumped into the lead as soon as the green came out, and he has led all the way. Several leaders have made pit stops, and we are going green very soon.
Continuing those pit notes that we're picking up off the scanner radio, Bob, Danny Sullivan's car is running very loose. That's the reason why you haven't seen or heard Sullivan's name up among the leaders. They were back inside of Ari Leyendijk's car again. And incidentally, during that yellow flag, for everybody concerned, the radio to Tom Sneva from crew chief John Anderson indicated he was coming in. Apparently that decision was made in the cockpit. Nope, I'm not coming in. I'm going to try and gain as much ground out here in front of this racetrack before I have to pit.
Once again, we look for a restart. The pace car is off. The field begins to pick up speed, and this time we do get a green flag. We're back to racing. It is Tom Sneva leading now with Johnny Rutherford running in 2nd position. Ed Pim 3rd. Car number 55, Jose Le Garza, is 4th, and Rick Mears is 5th, but those guys have not pitted in this most recent yellow period. Here comes Rutherford moving up through the field, about to pass Ari Leyendijk, or at least trying to in the 3rd turn.
Johnny Rutherford, watch for him on the inside as we come down the front stretch. Ari Leyendijk will take his line on the high side. If Rutherford has the horses, he'll punch right past Ari going into turn number 1. On the low side, does he have enough room? No, he's not there yet. Leyendijk continues to watch the rearview mirrors. He can hear, he can sense Johnny Rutherford at this point. He's already checked the mirrors. He knows as the leader, the guy is bound to be coming by unless, gee, is something going wrong here with my car? Meaning that, has it improved? Am I that much better? Ari Leyendijk checks the mirrors one more time, and Johnny Rutherford stays back there, and Leyendijk continues to run at full throttle and running smoothly in front of Rutherford.
It gives you an idea of just how fast these cars are running. Ari Leyendijk looked just briefly to his left to check the rearview mirror as he came off the 2nd corner, and by the time his focus was back in front of him, it was time to turn the car into the 3rd turn once again. Tremendous shots from that in-car camera.
There is Roberto Guerrero and Mario Andretti. No, that's Gary Bendenhausen and Mario Andretti. Gary Bendenhausen in that Timex-sponsored Watson race car, Wilkie Watson race car, is having a tremendous run this weekend. Gary Bendenhausen has just moved out and around Mario Andretti. Bendenhausen, who started 12th, we had him running 8th or 9th in the earlier part of the race, is turning in one of his most outstanding performances in recent years.
Gary Bendenhausen is in 8th place right now and holding off, at least for the moment, Mario Andretti, who is running 9th. Gary Bendenhausen from Monrovia, Indiana. A starter in this year's Indianapolis 500 for the first time since 1981, I believe, and did a nice job in that race. And if he is successful here in some races, we can watch for him to compete in all IndyCar races this year and do very well. Johnny Rutherford, meanwhile, still tries to pass Ari Leyendijk on the racetrack. Rutherford has not been able to get around yet, and there are
unofficially, I believe that's Jose Lee who would be running, I think, in the 3rd or 4th position, make that 4th position after a pretty pleasing month at Indianapolis. And there is Rick Mears, who had a very pleasing month at Indianapolis. He obviously would have liked to finish a little higher, but 4th place is not all that bad when you consider his career. Now remember that Rick Mears made an on-schedule pit stop in the early part of the race. They were unhappy with the stagger on the race car. They made those changes, and the number 1 Pennzoil car of Rick Mears has moved up.
They are closing in, by the way, on Ed Pim, who is running in 3rd position. Ed Pim in that green number 66, leading the cars off of corner number 4. Ahead of him is Raul Boisel, but that's 3rd, 4th, and 5th running right there together with Jose Lee, the 4th place car. Now Mears opportunity to pick up the spot.
Tim and Garza, once again, were two of the cars on the racetrack running near the leaders, were people that chose not to pit during that yellow flag caution about lap number 30-35.
Roberto Guerrero and Michael Andretti on the racetrack running together. There goes Ed Pim to the inside.
Right in the middle. Raul Boisel has to get out of the throttle. Mears gets through. Garza gets through, but not quite quick enough as Rick Mears gets under Jose Le Garza. Now Rick Mears puts his sights on Ed Pim, the number 66 Gold Bandit car. Here comes Michael Andretti in the blue and yellow crinkle machine, the lead machine, moving on the high side. Andretti trying to follow Jose Le Garza through. Rick Mears moves underneath Ed Pim. What a battle for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth position. There goes Michael on the high side.
Rick Mears is really hooked up, it appears. He has moved into third position now, but we're also watching Michael Andretti moving up. Jose Le Garza looks to the inside, has to brake heavily in turn number 3 as Michael has the higher line and the faster line in turns 3 and 4. Michael Andretti also passes Ed Pim coming off of the 4th turn, and Michael Andretti is moving back up towards the front.
Jose Le action giving us, Jose Le Garza giving us a little bit of Walter Payton action that time. Coming out of turn number 4, the car swerving. We can't stress how delicate the point must be for these drivers. We're talking about speed, 170, maybe 175 miles an hour on the straightaways here at Milwaukee. This is a flat, 1-mile racetrack. 6 degrees means nothing. We told you earlier it might just as well be reverse camber as you go around these corners in these highly modified ground effects machines. The ground effects really take effect, really take over here on a flat racetrack. The drivers go to these turns and they think about the brake. You run your foot across it, you're just going to change the weight distribution of the car. That's what you use the brakes for. You don't jump on them like you used to on the old road.
There is oil reported to be on the middle of the straightaway, and the yellow comes out. We have oil on the racetrack. The yellow comes out, and Gary Bettenhausen is going very slowly on the racetrack, dropping the car to the apron as he approaches turn number 3. A very disappointing moment for Gary Bettenhausen, who was running up in the top 10, well in the top 10. Now we expect to see pit stops, and here is Tom Sneva pitting.
Their gamble paid off. Tom Sneva has come on into the pits. He's got the service from John Anderson and crew. They've exchanged the tires on the outside. They're checking it. Tom's pointing, saying, I want to go. They drop the jack, and he's off and away.
It's 15.3-second pit stop for Tom Sneva as he once again lowers the visor and goes back out on the racetrack. Well, here are the top 10 now as the yellow is coming out. We'll review those top 10 for you right after we have this message. We can tell you, however, that at the moment, Johnny Rutherford is the leader of this race with pit stops occurring. We'll be right back in a moment. Well, there are houses just beyond the backstretch here at West Allis, and as you can see, some people get a free view of this race from that vantage point. The crews are on the racetrack trying to clean up the oil dumped by the Gary Bettenhausen engine. Here are the top 10. Johnny Rutherford, the leader at the moment. Michael Andretti is second. Ed Pim third. Roberto Guerrero fourth. And Mario Andretti is running in fifth position. In sixth is Kogan. Seventh, Ray Hall. Eighth is Allenser Jr. Ninth is A.J. Foyt. And 10th is Tom Sneva. Now, a few of those cars have pitted in the last lap, and so those standings perhaps aren't absolutely right, but Johnny Rutherford has not pitted and is in the lead. Well, there is Tom Sneva in this Gold Bandit car number 33, who led until he made the pit stop just a couple of laps ago. He was disappointed, of course, because a CV joint broke on him during warm-ups. Well, the question is, what is a CV joint? And Jack Arute has the answer to that question.
A lot of the teams that have elected to use the March 86 chassis this year are expressing some concerns about the placement of the wastegates in the car. The exhaust dumping hot fumes directly back into some critical components. One of them, the half shafts or drive shafts, but the other one is the constant velocity joint, or CV joint for short.
Here's a look at the standard 86 factory setup. The exhaust and wastegates are in direct line with the power transferring half shafts. The heat can discolor the shafts and some fear make them more prone to failure. With the CV joints, though, the problem is more complex. The CV does exactly what its name implies, maintains constant velocity between the rear end and half shafts. Increase the heat on these components, and the grease that lubricates the bearings can literally boil out, or at best affect the lubrication. Now, any reduction in the lubricating properties can scar the bearings, affecting their free roll and causing them to bind up and sometimes fail. Many teams have modified the factory setup, and Roberto Guerrero's is one of the simplest. Crew Chief Phil Casey has attached a tunnel to extend the exhaust up and over the CV half-shaft area. It's a good idea. Even though March claims there's no reason for teams concerned, this minor alteration at least provides something almost as important as speed: peace of mind.
So Tom Sneva, much more successful here this weekend, is running very well. The oil is still out on the racetrack, and the track crews are still out there cleaning it up, so it's going to be a couple of more laps before we go green once again. And once again, here is the vantage point from Arie Luyendyk's car. We'll resume our live coverage in just a moment from Milwaukee. You rejoin us as the green is about to come out. Here they come off the fourth corner. The green is waved, and we're back to racing with Johnny Rutherford now in the lead. Rutherford has not made a pit stop, and apparently they are holding to their original race strategy of coming in on about the 75th lap. They hope that they can get a yellow about that time. So Rutherford has not pitted, and neither has Roberto Guerrero.
Roberto's crew radioed that they would come in 3 laps, but they didn't come in during this yellow.
Once again, that's Michael Andretti running in second position. Michael Andretti in car number 18 is in second. In third position is Mario Andretti, and fourth is Roberto Guerrero. Johnny Rutherford from Fort Worth, Texas, is in the lead here at Milwaukee, and hoping for a yellow in about 20 laps so that he can make a pit stop.
Johnny Rutherford is one of a host of veteran drivers who have won 4 times here at the Milwaukee Mile. Only one of the old, venerable veterans of automobile racing, Roger Ward, has won more than 4 times here. Roger Ward won 7 times in Milwaukee, but Rutherford, Tom Sneva, Mario Andretti, A.J. Foyt, Gordon Johncock, Bobby Unser, and Al Unser Sr., all those people have won 4 times here. Just got a quick glimpse of Kevin Cogan, the red, white, and blue, primarily blue and white number 7. Kevin has not been heard from so much in this race, but he is certainly not out of it. Tom Sneva right now is breathing down his wastegate, breathing down his rear wing. Sneva goes to the inside with relative ease. But remember, this is a 200-lap race. We are about 1/4 of the way through. For the most part, unless you're really hooked up, you better run your own race for about the first 2/3. So Kevin Cogan may not be out of it yet.
Tom Sneva just passed Kevin and went into 6th position. Sneva is 6th, and Cogan now back to 7th place. Tom Sneva moving up through the field after having made a pit stop during this most recent yellow caused by oil on the racetrack from Gary Bettenhausen's blown engine. Here comes Sneva off of corner number 4, and he's trying to pass now Bobby Rahal, who is right ahead of him. Rahal to the inside of the racetrack, and Tom Sneva to the outside. Sneva standing on the gas, coming out of corner number 2. Down the backstretch, they're side by side, 2 abreast. Rahal races with him. The race to the 3rd turn is won by Rahal, but Sneva grabs the lead, or at least grabs the position, I should say, going into corner number 3.
I'll tell you what, Bob, the thing about Sneva that's so impressive is that I have watched him pass low, pass below the yellow line, pass high. You saw the lane that he used to get around Bobby Rahal. Bobby blocked his progress going down the front stretch. Tom just held on to where it was, and as they went down the back stretch, he had the confidence. There he is going to the inside of our line. I see there he is out of the in-car camera. The skull bend and moving to the inside. They go underneath. I believe that's A.J. Foyt that they're going to the inside of now. But Sneva's car is running all over the racetrack. So that was Rick Moskiewicz with those bright orange rookie stripes that looked like the black Copenhagen and the orange Foyt on there, but it was not. It was the orange of the rookie stripe.
So Tom Sneva now in 5th position, and as he goes to the high side of that slower car on the backstretch, that's the driver of that slower car signaling him to go around, and that car is going to be making a pit stop. It's one of the machinist union cars.
Yeah, I think it's Johnny Parsons. Bobby's been in and out of the pit the last 10 or 15 laps. Here he comes coasting down the pit. You know, at Indianapolis a week ago, Johnny Parsons, unfortunately, his race was abated by a spin on the backstretch. He was never passed on the track all day long last week at Indianapolis.
Here's the battle for 3rd and 4th position. Mario Andretti has his hands full trying to hold off Roberto Guerrero. attention. Guerrero goes a little bit wide, loses maybe a couple of car lengths, but comes storming back out of the second corner. And they go down the backstretch once again as Tom Sneva is also lurking in the shadows, watching what's going on ahead of him. Third, fourth, and fifth position here. Sneva on the high side of Guerrero in turn number 4.
See him. He does not see him. Oh, that was tense for just a second there.
Great racing here. Third, fourth, and fifth. Andretti, Guerrero, and Sneva. Andretti goes to the inside in corner number 1 to pass the slower car. Here comes Roberto Guerrero right behind him, and here comes Tom Sneva. So those three are running nose to tail on the racetrack, and there is Bobby Rahal, who is also in this contest.
Rahal, of course, was just put down by Tom Sneva. So what's happening right now is Andretti, who looks like almost for a second there. Oh, they touch coming out of their turn number 4. Andretti and Guerrero come together. Nobody spins, but the left front wing, it looked like, on Roberto Guerrero's car was damaged.
Yes.
Yellow flag coming out for debris on the racetrack, but Andretti and Guerrero come together coming out of the high-speed turn number 4.
Well, precision driving as those cars touched at probably 160 miles an hour, and everybody kept it together. There you can see as Andretti's car comes in contact with Guerrero's, and I believe it's the side pod or the area that comes up over the left rear wheel that broke off of Guerrero's car.
Bob, I'll tell you that the man who did a masterful job of driving, as we look at the leader, Johnny Rutherford in the pit, was Roberto Guerrero. He had a couple of moments there when he was entangled in Mario's wheel, that one sudden movement, one direction to the other. By the way, Rutherford very slow getting out of the pit. Kevin Colgan seemingly having a much better pit stop. Rutherford's car momentarily had stalled, but they gave it that old push start, and away it went with after that Kelly's try. But Guerrero doing an excellent job of not panicking and getting away from Andretti's wheels down the front.
This yellow comes out on the 67th lap, so Johnny Rutherford's crew is only 8 laps from their target lap that they wanted to come in on. And they're in pretty good shape, but unfortunately, that car stalled on him as he was exiting the pits. Look at the damage here on the right side of Mario Andretti's car. That's where his car came in contact with Guerrero's. But Andretti's was not damaged as badly as Guerrero's. And here is Johnny Rutherford, who has come back into the pit area, and they're looking over that car to see if he broke something as he was pulling out. The car stalled on him just as he was pulling out. Now he gets away. Let's go to Jack. Maybe Jack can tell us what's going on down there.
Well, there are tense moments here for Johnny Rutherford and the entire crew. The car is stalled again. They're pushing furiously, trying to get it to refire. It does. But the last time when he came in for what seemed to be a normal pit stop, a piece of fiberglass bearing came off of the car. He actually ran over it. Nobody's quite sure what it is. One of the PPG cart officials picked it up, showed it to Johnny Capel. Johnny grabbed it, threw it behind the wall here. We'll check on it and get back to you as to what it actually is.
Johnny Rutherford had led this race until this most recent caution period and was looking very strong, but now something may be wrong with that car that could prevent victory for him here at the Milwaukee Mile.
Well, you know, vapor lock is not uncommon in these race cars. What happens during a pit stop is that basically the fuel that's in the line evaporates because there's so much heat. When you're out in the racetrack and running, of course, the air is flowing across the race car and keeps things cool. But when you sit in the pits, the oil, or rather, excuse me, the fuel dries up in the lines, and that's what causes these cars to stall so easily. That's why sometimes you have to push them to get the fuel back to the line and get the car started.
This is our 6th caution period in this race after 69 laps. So the average speed here is going to be held down if we continue at this pace. Now the green comes back out, and we're back to racing. And Tom Sneva is the leader. That car ahead of him is a lap car. Sneva will be trying to once again move around. There he does, go to the inside and puts another lap on that car of Jeff Brabham. Sneva is the leader with Al Unser Jr. in car number 30 there, running in 2nd position. Rick Mears is 3rd. 4th is Jose Legarza, and A.J. Foyt is shown in 5th place. There is Al Unser Jr., who had a tremendous day yesterday at Mid-Ohio as he won the International Race of Champions at Mid-Ohio. In fact, he led from start to finish. It was only his 2nd IROC start. Bobby Rahal was 2nd in that 12-car field. Darrell Waltrip 3rd, and Bill Elliott 4th. Al Unser Jr. also a winner on the IndyCar circuit last year, but has not not too far behind Little Al in third position.
He's coming on, Bob. Rick Mears has just been motoring very fastly and very smoothly for the last 30 laps, and he's getting ready to mount his challenge.
So we'll wait here to see if Rick Mears can pass Al Unser Jr. Oh, there's a tremendous, I don't know whether those were hot dog wrappers or what, but a lot of debris blown off of the racetrack. I guess it was just hot dog wrappers or whatever. It's a little bit windy here this afternoon, and that perhaps contributed to it. Now Rick Mears continuing to work on Al Unser Jr., trying to move into second position.
Al Unser Jr., who has spent the weekend in a helicopter, a private small jet helicopter back to the racetrack. They missed practice yesterday afternoon, the one that traditionally comes with full tanks, and there are many who feel that that practice is the most important practice section of the entire weekend. After you qualify, you then go out with either a full load of fuel or a partial load of fuel to try and get a real good assessment on your fuel mileage, which you can and cannot do with high and medium boost.
There are the top four. Tom Seaver, Al Unser Jr., Rick Mears, and running in fourth position is Michael Andretti. We're glad you could join us on this Sunday afternoon, and we'll be back at the Milwaukee Mile right after this.
Back in the Milwaukee State Fairgrounds, let's update you on Johnny Rutherford's condition. You know those two pit stops, the hurried motions? Well, here's the piece that came off during the first pit stop. It's a brake scoop to scoop the brakes. Now, I asked Johnny Caples, the crew chief, well, then why did Johnny come in next time around? He said when he went back out and blended into traffic, he got hit in the rear, and Johnny was afraid that it might have bent the wing angle on the back of the car. They checked it over, breathed a sigh of relief, and sent him back out on the racetrack.
Johnny Rutherford is in 11th position right now, so he's got a long way to go. Watching a good race on the track, Michael Andretti has passed Al Unser Jr., so has Rick Mears. So Mears is now in second place. Michael is third, and Little Al is fourth, followed by Jose Garza. And there is Johnny Rutherford.
Yeah, it's 11th position, but it's an ascending 11th position, Bob. He moved up, got alongside of Mario just before we went to him on camera. As he sees that traffic up ahead, he senses this may be my opportunity. They are approaching heavy traffic. Watch Rutherford as he tries to set up Mario Andretti. He's going to go to the high side of Mesquite. It's Rutherford on the high side, Andretti on the low side. See, there's three abreast right in front of him. Watch Johnny Rutherford. This could be very interesting.
So they sandwich Rick Mesquite there coming out of the second quarter. Now everybody on the high side of the racetrack as they lap slower traffic. And here is Rutherford still trailing Mario Andretti, a couple of IndyCar veterans going at it here. Racing for now, this is the 8th and 9th position. A.J. Foyt, another veteran, also right in front of all of this, and so is Ed Pym, Kevin Kogan.
There goes Rutherford.
And Rutherford did pass Mario Andretti.
Mario, by the way, we have picked up on the scanner radio. He's saying that the car is now beginning to push too much. A little while ago, they had commented they couldn't get the car to stop pushing, or not to push at all. It was turning in too much, and now he's got the opposite problem. It's pushing or refusing to turn to the left when Mario steps on the gas.
A.J. Foyt is running in 6th place in the number 14 Copenhagen car. A.J. started this race in 9th position, and he's leading it, Pym and others down the straightaway.
Well, he has had a good race, Bob. You know, a lot has been said and talked about A.J. Sure, we hear the doubters too, but I'll tell you, most of the competitors, even in the private moments, will tell you, hey, he hasn't lost it yet. He just had priorities in other areas. Seems to be as serious about racing this year as he has been in a long time, and he's had a real solid weekend.
Ari Lyondike is in some pretty heavy traffic at the end of the backstretch. His speed cars dicing in front of him as he takes the high line through turn number 3. Now dives to the inside and passes the slower car. That's Roberto Moreno right ahead of him. Great pictures. Now he goes high in turn number 1 as Moreno goes to the low side. But everybody hanging on.
The rack and pinion steering on these cars is set up to be at a racetrack like here in Milwaukee about 1 1/4. There goes Mears to the inside of Sneva. They're side by side. That's for the lead in turn number 3 and 4.
And Michael Andretti is right there also in 3rd position. So the first 3 cars here are literally nose to tail, side by side. Sneva still has the lead. Mears is still second. Andretti, Michael Andretti third. But look how close this race is after 88 laps.
Rick Mears has made a big climb up the mountain. He was all the way at the bottom. Matter of fact, he was at the bottom of the stream at the base of the mountain. He has clawed out of it and moved up to the top. So that is an indication behind Ari. Here comes Michael in that blue and yellow Craco car coming out with a very, very healthy lead after that tremendous move in turn 4 in the last lap.
Well, that was, to say the least, a tremendous move. He just stood on the gas, went to the high side, and passed everybody. There is Rick Mears now, who remains in third position, and Tom Seaver right ahead of him. Rick Mears finished third at last weekend's Indianapolis 500. Earlier this year, he finished 20th at Long Beach in 1915.
There goes Seaver moving to the inside of our camera car. Tom Seaver finally putting another lap on Ari Luyendyk, and that took a while. Tom Seaver had to work for about 3 or 4 racing green flag laps to get underneath Luyendyk, and Michael, with that unbelievable knockout punch on the high side, put everybody in arrears.
And look at the interval he has opened up. Look how high on the racetrack he is in the 4th turn to take the lead.
And they go 3 abreast. There he goes to the very high side of Roberto Moreno. There's Ari Luyendyk on the inside in that black gold trim number 61. And Michael found a way just to make that car stick. The ground effects, remember, this is not like an ARS car. There are tunnels underneath there. And boy, do they work on the new modern Martin.
Michael Andretti now approaching the slower car of Raul Boesel here on the main straightaway. We'll see what action he takes to put a lap on Raul in car number 22, the Duracell copper top car owned by Dick Simon Racing. And Michael gets around him easily. Now he's got double traffic ahead of him. Randy Lanier and Rick Miskiewicz. He passes Miskiewicz and darts to the inside to pass Lanier.
You know, one thing, this is the fastest that we have seen Michael run all day long, and it may be a matter of that car works a little better on the mid-range of fuel. You heard Kevin Colgan say last week after Indianapolis, I worked the best when I didn't have a full tank and I didn't have an empty tank. 1 gallon of fuel in these race cars weighs 7.5 pounds. Now they carry 40, so that means when they load up with fuel, they've got an extra 300 pounds on board. That's 15% of the total weight of the race car when they first get a full load. Michael's car is working very well after using up about 10 or 15 gallons of fuel, and right now that seems to be his advantage. Will Rick's car work better as the load goes away? Will Steven's car work better? Both of those cars have shown the ability to go fast, remember, near the end of the first load of fuel.
All right, let's review how they're running now. The leader is Michael Andretti. Second is Tom Sneva. Third is Rick Mears. Fourth is Al Unser Jr. And fifth is Jose Legarza. Sixth is Kevin Cogan. Seventh is A.J. Foyt. Eighth is Ed Tim. In ninth position is Johnny Rutherford. 10th position is Bobby Rahal. And 11th is Mario Andretti. That's the situation as we are completing 98 laps, just about to reach the halfway point of the American 200 from the Milwaukee Mile in West Allis, Wisconsin. Second and third here, Tom Sneva and Rick Mears. Michael Andretti has jumped out to a 3.5-second lead. So the car that worked so well in practice and qualifying here earlier is working just as well in this race. Johnny Rutherford continues to move up through traffic after having made double pit stops, passing A.J. Foyt here, and he moves up now into the 7th position.
Boy, those two guys have seen each other a few times in the racetrack. A.J. Foyt, of course, with 4 Indianapolis 500-mile wins. Johnny Rutherford with 3. Lots of miles, lots of money, and lots of wins between those two.
You know, Rutherford is still quite a bit behind, but I don't think he can be counted out of this race. It would appear to be the second or third fastest race car on the track at this point. Michael Andretti leads. We have reached the halfway point of this American 200. And we'll resume our live coverage right after this. Michael Andretti is your leader. We're past the halfway point, and so we present the Napa mid-race recap. Michael Andretti is your leader at the halfway point with a margin of about 3 seconds, and he has led the last 10 laps. The time of the race so far, 55 minutes and 22 seconds. Sneva was the lap leader, having led 69 at the halfway point. The average speed of the race, 103.801. We've had 5 caution periods, a total of 28 laps. There are 11 cars on the lead lap and 21 still in the event. The 3 cars that have dropped out, Emerson Fittipaldi because of a blown engine, Johnny Parsons because of mechanical problems, and also Jeff Brabham because of mechanical problems. Well, joining us in the broadcast booth is a man that I have admired for many years, not only because of his on-air ability, but of his knowledge, box racing. Isn't that your favorite sport there? I'm talking about Al Bernstein. Welcome to the broadcast.
Well, it's great to be up here. I don't think I could have picked a better race to come to. This is outstanding.
Well, we got some action going on here. It appears as if the jacks have broken on Al Unser Jr.'s car, and the right rear of that machine has fallen down onto the racetrack, and they're literally lifting the car by hand to get the right rear on. A tough break for little Al here, who was definitely running well and in the top 10.
Oh, it really is. He came darting into the pits at a very high rate of speed. I'm assuming it was a planned pit stop. We're at lap 107. It's unlikely they could go the distance from here. He had to stop one more time. But boy, was he making up ground as he came into the pit area. And the jack going down like that is something you simply cannot predict. You can see little Al drag stripping, as we like to say, to get out of the pit. But that cost him at least a lap on the speedway.
Well, let's get back to Al. You're a race fan, huh?
Well, I tell you what, I'm enjoying this race a lot. And Michael Andretti, is this maybe one of his better performances that you've seen in a while?
Actually, he's been very strong, Al, all year long. When he lost the race out at Phoenix, it looked like he had that race won. He was so strong on the road course at Long Beach. He seems to get just a little better, though, every time. Yeah, I probably would say, yeah, this may be his best.
Well, the main reason I'm here, though, Bob and Larry, is to see if A.J. Foyt has as good a left hook as people tell me he does. Is that true?
Well, that's very difficult for us to comment about. It's how we see him every week.
Okay.
But Michael Andretti is running very strong. Of course, he was the winner of the race at Long Beach, so that adds to his performance chart this year. He ran very well at Indianapolis, and I'll tell you, he has just been super strong all weekend here.
Al, one thing I want to ask you about, this is the first opportunity you've had to see the Indy cars live.
Yeah.
I've always felt that on TV, you lose a lot of the sensation of speed. They got to look quicker to you when you see them live.
When you see these cars on the track, it is astonishing how quickly they're going by. And of course, you get a better look at them on TV, like we're looking at right there, getting a good look in Rick Mears. And so you trade off something by seeing it on TV, but I can't hear you guys here at the track when I'm just watching them out there. So I like it better on TV.
Rick Mears has moved into second place, passing Tom Sneva. So Rick now second. You can see Tom back there in the green car. Drop back several car lengths in third position. Al, are you in the area for an assignment or just come up specifically for the race?
Well, I'm from Chicago, so I just been promising to come up here to this Milwaukee race.
No, he's been threatening, not
I've been threatening. Yeah, that's right. And I finally followed through on my threat. And as I say, I'm enjoying it a lot. And this one is going to go down to the wire, so I guess I did pick the right race to come to.
Well, it's good to have you up here, and as I said, we enjoy very much your work on ESPN.
Well, it's nice to cross-pollinate a little bit on our ESPN events, and it's really a pleasure to be here, and I enjoy your work as well. I try and follow these races whenever possible.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you. Little Al Unser, by the way, has come in for another pit stop. Tom Sneva is now in third position.
Tom, the amazing thing that's happening is that suddenly we have only 4 cars on the lead lap. While we have been visiting and talking and watching the action on the track, I had no idea that Michael Andretti was picking him up and laying him down as much as possible. Little Al is back on the track after a stop-and-go assessed penalty for running over his hose. Remember how quickly he tried to get out of the pits before they caught him. He was penalized stop-and-go. But getting back to that story of the cars in the lead lap, only Michael Andretti, the number 1 of Rick Mears, 33 of Tom Sneva, and Johnny Rutherford, who is almost a lap behind, are the 4 cars in the lead lap. You saw Rutherford just ahead of Michael.
Jose Le Garza is in for a pit stop, and so is A.J. Foyt as A.J. pulls in right ahead of Jose Le. So with 115 laps completed, second pit stops are being made. They're changing the right side rubber and the left side rubber on A.J. Foyt's car, and they're doing the same with Jose Le Garza. They wait until the fuel tank is filled, the 40 gallons of methanol in the car. They completed the work on Jose Le Garza's machine there. He goes back out onto the racetrack, and now we wait to see when A.J. Foyt is going to be able to get back out there. Garza picking up speed in corner number 2, rejoining the race. A.J. Foyt is very slow getting out of his pits. Now he catches, and he blasts out of there back onto the racetrack.
He had a fuel line pop off in practice on Friday and spray the inside of the engine compartment. He had a flash fire, which wiped out all the wires. Tom Sneva, back to that story in a minute. Here is Tom Sneva, one of the lead
cars on the lead lap, as Rick Mears is about 7.5 seconds behind Michael, but Rick is the only other car on the lead lap with Michael Andretti, who's looking strong and could be headed for his second ever IndyCar win. We'll be right back after these messages. Auto Racing 86 continues next Sunday here on ESPN at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, live from Portland, Oregon. The Budweiser G.I. Joe's 200. Now, Mauro Andretti won the race last year. Allenser Jr. was the winner of the inaugural race. Race number 3 from Portland coming up a week. We hope you'll be with us. Let's go down to the pit area for a report on this IndyCar race here in Milwaukee from Jackaroo.
Bob, it's nail-biting time in the Craco pits for Michael Andretti and his Barry Green-led pit crew. You see, they're going to make their second and hopefully final pit stop momentarily, but they've got to let it run down to at least lap 130, better yet, to about lap 134. Why? They've only got 40 gallons left of fuel stored here on pit road in the fuel tank. If they take on more and they stay out or come in sooner than that, they'll run out of fuel before the race is over.
Well, Jack, Rick Mears and others have come in for a pit stop during our break. The question is, do they have enough fuel now to go the rest of the distance?
I think probably they do. Remember, Michael Andretti's been really running very strong. And remember at Indianapolis, Barry Green has told us they've had their problems with getting good fuel consumption. They were the team, if you recall, at the end that said we needed a pit stop and a half. They haven't gotten it all down pat like maybe a Penske-led operation does. So they're just biting their fingernails a little bit down here in the pits, hoping they can go to lap 134. Great shots from that in-car camera, aren't they?
Unbelievable. 128 laps now have been completed as we continue to click off the lap, and we'll watch Michael Andretti's progress as he moves to the high side, goes alongside our in-car camera. The car driven by Ari Lyondike as they come down the straightaway. There is Michael shooting around him going into the first corner.
You know, Michael can stretch the fuel mileage just a little bit when he has a healthy lead like he has now. He can turn the cruise control down. What that means is that he isn't sucking in as much air and burning as much fuel. He can stretch it just a little farther than normal. He has a very healthy lead right now, and if he had not turned that cruise control down just a little bit, keep it a little not so hot, I would be surprised. Just to remind you that on lap 121, Rick Mears came in. And unless he's getting some really special mileage, that window might just be a little too big. That's 80 laps he's got to go on a load of fuel. That's a little uncommon. There's a picture of Michael Andretti, who's had that one win so far in 1986. Could this be number 2? Another review for you. Tom Steva came in on lap 118. That's 82 miles he would have to go on this load of fuel. That seems unlikely, unless they got to trick up their sleeves.
We haven't a change in the standings because of the pit stops that have been made. Johnny Rutherford is now running in second position. Third is Rick Mears. Fourth is Tom Steva. Fifth is Bobby Rahal. Sixth position is Mario Andretti. In seventh is Kevin Kogan. Eighth is Roberto Guerrero. And in ninth position is Ari Lyondike. Danny Sullivan has really not been competitive all day, and it has not been a good weekend for Danny Sullivan in the number 4 Miller car, which is also sponsoring this race here this weekend. Danny Sullivan, he checked in 18th position, about 10 miles an hour off the pole speed, and has not been in a challenging position all day today.
Now, Bobby said on Friday that, hey, we won't be a candidate for the pole. We just don't have the setup. They've had problems with the aerodynamics, the little pieces on the end, meaning the front wings and the rear wings in this race. You see him being passed there by Michael Andretti. They just have not been able to find the correct aerodynamic setup on that car. It's nothing an engine problem. The same thing happened to him at Indianapolis. After that tremendous qualifying run when he started in the middle of the front row, come race day, they just couldn't get the right setup.
Michael put another lap on Danny last lap, so he is now 2 laps down. And into the pit area is Johnny Rutherford. Second place competitor Johnny Rutherford makes a stop. And we'll see if he is any better getting out of the pit this time than he was last time. We're on lap 135.
He's okay, Bob. He can go the distance. We are now inside that line of demarcation. And if you stop now, Michael Andretti's crew, by the way, getting ready to go. They are setting up their tires on pit road. The leader, Michael Andretti, will be coming in momentarily. Let's watch This one without a hitch. Michael Andretti could take a giant step toward winning this race.
Johnny Caples and the rest of the Vermont American crew getting Johnny in and out very quickly. Johnny had no problems this time getting away. Didn't have to be pushed as he had to the last time he came in. Michael Andretti moves to the inside of Raul Boisel. Now we'll see if Michael comes in for the stop, and yes, he is. Michael Andretti is headed for pit road. Jackaroo will call the action as Michael comes in for his last pit stop.
Michael Andretti has brought his car to a halt. The Craco crew has gone to work. Meanwhile, Rick Mears continues to circuit the speedway, trying to gain the advantage. They're taking on all that's remaining in the fuel load. They're doing some quick work. They're waiting for the fuel to become completely in the 40 gallons. The second-place car continues to tour the speedway. Andretti is down and away, and he guns it going down pit road while his father Mario comes in for his stop.
We're watching Rick Mears in the fourth corner. Here he comes off of the fourth turn, and he will retain his lead. Michael will still be in the lead. Rick unable to take the lead here with this pit stop.
Boy, that really puts Michael into the driver's seat, or so to say, because I am not completely sure that Rick can go the distance. Everybody has pitted now. Michael will not have to pit again. He comes in on lap 135. He has only 65 laps or 65 miles to go. He comes out of the pit after this last pit stop and holds on to the lead. There is Rick Mears running in second position going into turn number 1. Michael is already in the middle of the backstretch, headed for turn 3. There he is, gunning down inside the yellow line, lapping traffic. And Michael Andretti really has maybe a Sunday ride to victory ahead of him now.
Quite an accomplishment for a guy to come in, make a pit stop, and retain the lead on a one-mile racetrack, but Michael Andretti has done so. In fact, it's about a full straightaway, maybe even more, and many cars.
Well, we have 4 cars on the lead lap again. Tom Sneva is the third one. He's being shown as 9 seconds behind the leader. The number 3 car of Bobby Rahal, interestingly enough, is the one who has moved into the 4th position at about 20 seconds behind the leader. Kevin Cogan leads all the cars that are 1 lap down in 5th position. Johnny Rutherford is 6th. 5, Mario Andretti is 7th. R.A. Ziondike has moved up to 8th. The leader of the echelon of cars 2 laps behind. In 9th to 66 at Tim and 10 is 55.
Kevin Cogan, while we watch the action on the racetrack, has come in. So has Bobby Rahal. So other runners in the top 10 are making their pit stops. Michael trying desperately to pass Roberto Moreno here, unable to do so at the moment. Now he moves along wheel to wheel with him at the end of the back stretch, and Michael does make the pass on Moreno and put him another lap down. Bobby Rahal has completed work on that. Budweiser through towards March, and he moves back onto the race course. And so does Kevin Cogan. A.J. Boyd now comes in for a stop. And Bobby is not picking up speed quite as fast as he sometimes does, getting out of the pit. Now that car up to full speed down the back stretch.
You saw Michael going by, so no longer do we have cars, 4 of them on the lead lap, as Michael put a lap on Bobby Rahal, and it puts us back to just 3 cars on the leader's lap. One more time, it's Michael Andretti, Rick Mears, and Tom Sneva. Those are the first 3. There is the leader.
Michael has been leading since lap number 91. He has made his final stop and still has about a 9-second advantage. We'll be right back. The yellow flag has come out again on lap number 145. It's because of a blown engine on the number 12 car of Randy Lanier, and let go here on the main straightaway. Randy brought the car down into the first turn grass. That's where it is right now. You can see Steve Edwards, the kart safety director, helping Randy out of the car. They're checking to see if there's any fire at the rear of the machine. There doesn't appear to be. Randy Lanier's day is over.
Randy Lanier, who came to Milwaukee with a great deal of confidence. He has earned his first ever IndyCar points here in 1986. And Lanier, who was the Rookie of the Year, of course, at Indianapolis this year, has had an abbreviated day here at Indianapolis.
Well, Bernstein is still with us up here in the booth. We want to thank you for joining us up here and extend an invitation anytime you're at a race. We'll be glad to have you up here. here in our broadcast.
Well, I appreciate it. I've had a good time, and like everyone else, I'll sit back now and see if Michael Andretti can hold on to the lead. Good to see you, fellas.
Thank you, Al, for joining us. That is the situation pretty much. Can Michael Andretti hang on to the lead? There is Tom Sneva, and you can see there's a wing adjustment being made at the front of that machine as it's being topped off with fuel. Sneva now is pushed off and will rejoin the field. Randy Lanier's blown engine brings out our 7th caution period of the afternoon. Nothing has been serious as far as accidents are concerned. We have had 3 spins, but most of the yellows have been because of blown engines and debris on the racetrack.
Tom Sneva's only chance is to pit. He loses a lot of positions on the racetrack, but Sneva is going after a win. He is not here to finish 2nd or 3rd. They come in, they sacrifice positions on the speedway, and make adjustments which will hopefully allow him to go faster and maybe catch Michael. He has apparently decided with the setup that I had, I can't get around that guy, so I got to come in here, maybe flatten that wing out, make this car quicker. It's a little more dangerous that way, but potentially it's faster.
You know, besides the wing adjustment on Tom Sneva's car, that was a good move on his part. Come in and take what's left in the fuel load. He's got it to go the distance now. You know how much fuel they've got left here? Oh, maybe about 3 cupfuls right here in the pop-off tank. So that's it. He won't be back into the pits again today. If he does, they've got nothing to give him.
You've got to get the fuel mileage because you only get 115 gallons of gas, of methanol, I should say, and when that's gone, you don't get any more.
And also on the radio in regards to pit stops and fuel loads, our scanner radio has picked up the conversation between Barry Green, crew chief, and Michael Andretti, the guy in the red and silver helmet there, and that blue and yellow number 18. That's it, young man. That's your last pit stop. Unless you have to race with someone. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm pretty sure they're not planning on coming in again.
It's about a, well, Michael Andretti had about a 3-second lead before we went yellow here, and now it's going to be interesting to see if Michael can maintain that kind of an advantage or whether Rick Mears in 2nd position is going to stay with him. Tom Sneva, the only other car on the lead lap, in 3rd place. Johnny Rutherford being shown 4th. 5th is Bobby Rahal. 6th is Roberto Guerrero. 7th is Kevin Kogan. 8th is Mario Andretti, and in 9th position is Al Unser Jr. Well, while Jack and I go to Portland, Oregon, Larry and Jackie Stewart will be in or near Montreal, Canada next week for the Canadian Grand Prix. John Bizignano will also be on that broadcast. The Canadian Grand Prix at 11:50 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time next Sunday morning. Michele Alboreto, the defending champion, set a new record last year in winning. But, of course, Ayrton Senna, who is the points leader, and Nigel Mansell have also been very strong in 1986. And Larry Newber next weekend at the Grand Prix live at 11:50 Eastern Time.
You know, Bob, we get a lot of questions from our friends as we travel around the country. Everybody says, oh, NASCAR, Winston Cup racing is the greatest because you have 20 cars in the lead lap and the lead draft. And, gee, maybe open wheel IndyCar racing isn't as great because it's hard for the cars to be within 2 car lengths, and same thing for the Formula One racing. Well, I'll tell you, and I'll tell you this in all sincerity, they each have their own kind of appeal. And what's going on in Formula One racing this year is one of the most intriguing seasons in recent history. And what's happened in IndyCar racing is a different winner every time. That's got to be fun, too.
The green comes back out, and we have 49 laps to go. 151 laps have been completed. Look at Rick Mears move to the inside there on the main straightaway and pass some of the slower cars as he begins his pursuit now of the lead. Rick is that 4th car back, 3rd car back of the leader, Michael Andretti. There is Mears in turn number 3. He's got quite a bit of racetrack between himself, though, and the leader, Michael Andretti.
As you watch Rick Mears move toward the front, you can't help but think of a couple of years ago when he had this race seemingly in his hip pocket, when he ran out of fuel, or rather, excuse me, when he had the engine malfunction with about 10 laps to go. He tried to nurse that thing home, and Tom Sneva, whom you're watching right there, moving to the high side of Al Unser Jr., oh, not this time, was the man who came around the outside and just barely nosed Rick Mears out at the start-finish line.
Sneva caught behind Kevin Kogan and Al Unser Jr. here in the 4th turn. Now Tom gets around Kevin Kogan and Jose Legarza and moves to the outside of Al Unser Jr. now in corner number 1. Sneva's car appears to be handling well, and he is on the move now to move up toward the 2nd place car of Rick Mears. There's only about 4 seconds between them.
Well, 4 seconds seconds between first, second. There are 46 laps to go in this race, and the question becomes, will Sneva have enough time? I've got him unofficially about 9.2 seconds behind the leading duo, and he has, as we mentioned to you, just a little bit more than 40 laps to get it done.
There's the leader, Michael Andretti, off of corner number 4. Now the second place car is Rick Mears. There he is coming off of the fourth corner in the yellow machine. And now there is Tom Sneva coming off the fourth corner. So there is that much racetrack and there are that many cars between first and third.
Well, on the last lap, although Sneva is in traffic, the distance didn't shrink. Tom didn't gain any ground on that man. The leader, Michael Andretti, was still about 9.2 seconds.
You know, it's quite a story for the Graco team. Of course, they've been a two-car team for many years as A.J. Foyt climbs out of his car.
A.J. Foyt, after one of his better weekends in recent years, looked like he might have been destined for a top 10 finish, but when you see A.J. get out, that means he's getting ready to do some work. As they're looking over the right front section of the car and reassembling the steering wheel as A.J. called to the day here at Milwaukee.
Well, A.J. was running in the top 10, but was 14th when he finally brought the car in for its final pit stop. Michael Andretti is the leader of the American 200. Bob Jenkins, Larry Newber, and Jack Arute back at West Allis, Wisconsin, the Milwaukee Mile, where we're presenting live coverage of the American 200 IndyCar race, the fourth stop on the PPG IndyCar World Series for 1986. The race has pretty much been the story of Michael Andretti, who started from the pole position, has been in the lead since the 91st lap. We're now on lap number 160, and he has about a 5-second lead over Rick Mears and about a 9-second lead over Tom Sneva. Those three cars, the only cars on the lead lap. Fourth is Johnny Rutherford, a lap down. Fifth is Bobby Rahal, who is 2 laps down. Sixth is Roberto Guerrero, also 2 laps down. Seventh is Mario Andretti. In the 8th position is Al Unser Jr. 9th is Kevin Kogan, and 10th is Jose Legarreta.
And the reliability of the modern Indianapolis car is what is sidetracking Tom Sneva. I've been timing that man, Michael Andretti, and Tom Sneva to see if Sneva was cutting into the margin. When Sneva has a clean track, he was cutting in at about a 1/10 of a second a lap. But the problem is there's so much traffic up there, Tom has not even been able to catch Rick Mears yet. That man at this point, he's stuck behind Mario Andretti, Roberto Guerrero, and Ed Kim. They're racing for position on the racetrack, and Tom is trying to gain ground. There's Rick Mears coming through. That gives you an idea of the interval between first and second. You can see the distance there between the two of them.
Well, of course, the Penske team interested in the Ilmore engine that Al Unser Sr. drove at Indianapolis. Now we pick up this battle for position. Roberto Guerrero and Mario Andretti are going at it for 6th and 7th.
Those are the two people that Sneva just got delayed by as they race for position for about 2 or 3 laps. That's Ed Kim directly in front. That is not Tom Sneva. You can see the red helmet with the broad white stripe. That's Eddie. I think that he is a lap down to the two of them. Guerrero coming very close to the Cornell graduate. Remember that Guerrero and Mario Andretti have been together all day long, both literally and figuratively, as they came together in the front stretch, and only a superb job of driving by both of them, particularly Roberto, saved a disaster.
6th and 7th position, Roberto Guerrero and Mario Andretti, who was the easy winner of this race last year. At this point last year, he had a couple of wins and a couple of second places, but things have not been going quite as well this year as they had last year for Mario Andretti. There you can see 165 laps completed, 35 more to go.
It does begin to look like Michael Andretti's race, but so much can happen in a very sophisticated and delicate and sensitive Indianapolis car. Tire stagger is something that, for the most part, they've eliminated it as a problem. There's a look at Roberto. We are running the radial tires this week. The radial tires the crews like. There is Mario Andretti. Look at him as he follows Roberto around the racetrack. The old bias tires, the stagger on the tires, or the difference in the circumference from the left side to the right side tires, would change, would grow during the running of a race. But the bias tires are a lot more dependable. The guys say that you can measure them before you put them on the race car, and they stay just the same. As you walk along the pits, by the way, you can see how the radial tires have changed change in terms of how they set these cars up with the camber. You can actually visually see the right front wheel. Not a camber that's visual to the eye.
You know, we have come here to Milwaukee so many times anticipating the winner of the Indianapolis 500 to run strong, and historically that really isn't the way it's worked out, as we can see the average speed of 112.441 at this point in the race. Back in 1956, Pat Flaherty won Milwaukee after winning Indianapolis. A.J. Foyt did so in 1964. Al Unser did in 71. Johnny Rutter in 74. But since then, it hasn't been all that impressive. In 1982, Gordon Johncock had Rick Mears by 1600ths of a second at Indianapolis, but failed to win here at Milwaukee. Then Tom Sneva inched Al Unser for his second triumph at Milwaukee the next year. So really the winner of Indianapolis rarely wins here on the Milwaukee Mile.
Boy, Mario and Roberto are having a lot of fun at it out there. They're just going after each other. It's like a wide receiver and a defensive back. Each trying to get the better of the other on one play after another. There is Mario following Roberto around. Remember, they are on the same lap, 6th and 7th position. You know, Bob, 150 miles an hour. I know he went faster at Phoenix, but there's a banking on that racetrack. The pancake, when you're on it in an Indianapolis car, it's taken 50 years to go that fast. That is a remarkable speed mark the drivers have attained this week.
Andretti still trying to pass Roberto Guerrero. Andretti is on the inside. They come off the 4th corner now. Mario does move alongside Roberto. Let's see if he gets the position, and he does. Mario Andretti picks up the position by going low on the racetrack in the straightaway and into turn number 1. So Mario picks up another spot, and there are certainly no worries as far as his son is concerned. Michael Andretti has a 6-second lead here at Milwaukee, and we'll be back with more of our live coverage. Stay with us. We are back in Milwaukee, where Roberto Guerrero has called it a day, and he has had a great race with Mario Andretti and others, but an engine problem has sent him to the sidelines. Now on the racetrack, we watch Mario Andretti, who has passed Bobby Rahal for position. So now Mario Andretti is in 5th, and Rahal is in 6th spot. Roberto Guerrero has had many successes at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, finishing 2nd, 3rd, and 4th the past 3 years. But unfortunately, the day is over at Milwaukee. Let's go down to Jackaroo.
Roberto, it was a tight run there with Mario Andretti, and then all of a sudden, up in smoke. Engine let go?
Yep, the engine just went, so a bit disappointing.
Well, it really hasn't been your day. You got into that little altercation early on. What exactly happened out there when you got into that tussle?
Well, Mario wasn't running that well, and I was trying to get by him for a few laps, and eventually I got around the outside of him, and obviously he didn't see me and he squeezed me out into the wall, and we just thought it was lucky that it wasn't worse.
Do you ever wonder, Roberto, if there's some way that you can transfer the kind of good luck you have at Indianapolis and get it on the rest of the circuit?
I'll tell you, we keep trying, but it just doesn't seem to work. Hopefully it'll get better after this race.
A lot of times, guys, he's like the little train that said, I could.
Roberto Guerrero has had a great afternoon, but unfortunately he's had to drop out of the race. There is Al Unser Jr. in car number 30. Al Unser Jr. being shown in 9th position at this point.
Bob, as we watch the 9th running, Al Unser Jr. just to update you on the situation of the potential threats to the lead. It is over. There will be no threat to the lead. Only mechanical problems can sideline Michael Andretti now. Tom Sneva was closing in just a bit. There were a lot of cars between Sneva and Michael, but Tom was picking up about 1/10 of a second a lap. He was closing in on Johnny Rutherford, and then all of a sudden, Sneva began to slow down. Sneva's handling apparently is going away. They made the change on that last caution flag. We told you probably to set the car up. They took a chance. He's going for basically the win, not necessarily nothing, but the win or all. Sneva has not been able to get around Johnny Rutherford. As a matter of fact, he has dropped back. So right now, Rick Mears runs a comfortable 2nd position behind Michael Andretti. And Michael has opened up distance between himself and the 2-time two-time Indy champion Rick Mears.
Larry, as you talk about the fact that Andretti should be able to go the distance, remember, we've been talking about it all day. Fuel consumption is critical. Now, they waited it out. They came in after 130 laps. That was the mark they looked for the last 40 gallons of fuel in the tank. But who knows? Remember when you monitored the radio, what Barry Green said? That's it, mate. You've got to stay out there until somebody races you. Who knows what's going to happen now? It could be fuel here for Michael Andretti. Does he back out of the throttle, or does he keep on running full tilt?
No evidence that he is backing off the throttle at this point, as the lead is staying the same or maybe even stretching out just a little bit. Michael Andretti now with only 14 more laps to go. We've completed 186 circuits, and we are timing Michael to see what his lap time is.
Well, in practice yesterday, we were trying to ascertain what would be a logical time for the race. We're coming up with the middle to high 24 seconds. So let's see if Michael is anywhere near that mark as he comes around to complete a lap. He's at 25.6, which might suggest, Bob, that he is off the boost a little bit, that he has clanked that race car down to conserve a little bit of fuel. There's a possibility that Michael is cooling it just a bit.
Well, that's only about 141 mile-an-hour average, so he's about 11 miles an hour. His qualifying speed. Look at Johnny Rutherford, who has closed in on Rick Mears. But Johnny is a lap
There's
down.
Sneva.
Look at Mears, Sneva, and Rutherford, all three on the racetrack, making it 3 wide, now making it 5 wide.
Almost 5 abreast. Wow. Now, at this point, we're not absolutely certain whether or not Rutherford is on the lead lap. We think he is a lap down.
Yes,
that puts Sneva into second.
That's correct. Sneva is on the lead lap, so is Mears. Rutherford a lap down, so Tom Sneva now is in second place.
Boy, just about 3 or 4 laps ago, we reported that Sneva was apparently having handling problems. As I looked up ago, he was a good 2 or 3 seconds behind Rick Mears, but Sneva has come back and really parlayed heavy traffic there, almost 5 abreast, as Bob mentioned, into a second place.
Here's the replay of the action in corner number 3. It all began in the third corner and lasted till the straightaway.
Sneva gets the momentum on the high side. Rutherford tries to sneak in. Mears had to get out of the throttle because of the lap car of Raul Boisel. There is Steve Chassis. He figures in. Chassis not running as quick as any of the 4 cars. Mears has to wait. He cannot go around Boisel. Sneva has the line. He has the quick line, and Johnny Rutherford has to jump on the binders going into turn number 1 because Rick Mears was looking for his line coming out of the middle of the racetrack.
Well, I believe there is something wrong with the Mears machine, as he is the one that apparently is dropping back just a little bit. But not so with Michael Andretti. There are now less than 10 laps to go. He's on the backstretch. So Michael looking like a sure winner. It is Sneva running second and Mears third. A lap down in fourth is Johnny Rutherford, and then Mario Andretti shown in fifth position. We'll be right back for the conclusion of this American 200 at Milwaukee. Back at the State Fair Park in Milwaukee, West Allis, Wisconsin, Rick Mears has made a pit stop. He was low on fuel. That's the reason he was dropping back. So he made a very quick pit stop to gain those extra few drops of methanol. He's back out there on the racetrack and is still in third position.
Remember when he came in on lap 121? We speculated at that point. It seemed like it was a bit early. Rick Mears really needed a yellow flag to either stretch the fuel mileage or to give him a chance to come in and take that last gulp of fuel and not lose a tremendous amount of distance on the racetrack like he has now.
Rick Mears just passed Steve Chassis, who had the only other non-Cosworth engine in the race this afternoon. He was running a Buick. Now, Jeff Rabin was supposed to have started the race in the Honda engine this weekend, but they decided that they wanted to do some more work on that engine, so Jeff Rabin started the Cosworth, and Steve Chassis' Buick was the only non-Cosworth in the event.
Well, Bob, what has happened is that there was a lot of extra rain this weekend here at Milwaukee, and each of the practice sessions on Friday and Saturday were delayed until about noon, and those people who had those experimental engines just didn't have enough time to experiment.
There is a potential change of position here for third, as Mears and Rutherford are now on the same lap, and Rick and Johnny are separated by a little bit of real estate, but not very much. And I don't think that Johnny Rutherford is going to for third. The question is Michael Andretti slowing down here with a couple couple of laps to go. If he is, I think he's just making sure that he's going to win this race.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. By the way, Kevin Cogan, the man who finished second in this year's Indianapolis 500, and moved out of this race. He's obviously got some terminal engine problems. Getting back to the Michael Andretti story, I'm very comfortable with the point at which he stopped. If Michael is slowing down, it's calculated as the white flag comes out.
He is on the last lap with just a half lap to go now for Michael Andretti, and he will win his second race of the year in this Graco STP lean machine. Here he is off the fourth turn. Michael Andretti from Nazareth, Pennsylvania wins the American 200.
Michael Andretti, his second win of this year in the car number 18. You know, I was kidding the crew a couple weeks ago about going with the number 18. I said I'm kind of partial to 99. You know what 18 means? It's a Hebrew, actually, slogan, and it means high, which is also for life and good times. So there's meaning in the number 18. And by the way, 99 is nothing more than 9 plus 9. That's 18.
And Tom Sneva is going very slow down the backstretch, and so is Al Unser Jr. Boy, they really cut the fuel mileage close here. There is Tom Sneva, whose car is virtually stopped at the entrance to turn number 3 into the backstretch. And Al Unser Jr. is also very slow down the backstretch, and fuel problems have caused some problems for those two, but not for Michael Andretti, as he receives the congratulations of his pit crew. He is stopped here on the main straightaway at the start-finish line. Victory number 2 in 1986 for the son of Mario, Michael Andretti.
As we watch the victor dismount, remember that Tom Sneva came in on lap 147. He only had to go 53 laps on that last load of fuel. You can see how close they cut it when they turned the boost up.
We will be back to talk with the winner, Michael Andretti, right after we pause for this commercial message. Again, Michael Andretti, the winner. Our Winner's Circle interview is being brought to you by Goodyear. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you go to Victory Lane in Jackaroo with Michael Andretti.
Well, this is a very happy victory lane for the entire Graco crew. Michael Andretti, first of all, congratulations. You're second of the year.
Thanks a lot. It just ran great. I got to give credit to Adrian. We took a guess on our race setup because it didn't feel very good in the beginning, and it just came out great.
You're referring to Adrian Newley, your designer, but what about the work from Barry Green and his crew? They got you in and out and gave you good fuel mileage to boot.
Everything was perfect. Perfect pit stops, perfect on the track, everything.
Now, you're going to be flying home with your dad to Nazareth, Pennsylvania. He hasn't won yet this year. What's the plane flight going to be like back? You've won twice.
You're going to give him some advice? No, not really. It's tough luck for him, but he'll be there.
Well, he's here today, Victory Lane, and it belongs to the Graco crew and Michael Andretti. Back up to you guys in the booth.
All right, Michael pretty much had him covered here all weekend. He was the pole sitter, and he pretty much dominated this race in winning the American 200 here today. We'll be back to sum up what happened here right after this break. We are back at the Milwaukee Mile after the American 200 completed. Here's the race summary. The time was 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 45 seconds. The average speed, 116.78 miles an hour. There were 3 leaders, 3 late changes, 6 caution periods, and 34 laps were run under caution. The top 10 finishers, Michael Andretti, the winner. Tom Sneva finished second. Rick Mears was third. Johnny Rutherford fourth, and Mario Andretti.
This is qualifying for the Michigan 500. The driver is Rick Mears in his Cosworth.